In the summer of 1982, a ragged Aerosmith took the stage without two of its founding bad boys, a visual omen of what was to come. By the time the pounding chords of Lightning Strikes rang out over the speakers, the band had already fractured. Guitarist Joe Perry had quit 3 years earlier, notoriously after a blown World Series of Rock gig in Cleveland. And when Lightning Strikes was recorded, Brad Whitford also quietly walked out. Longtime fans were stunned. Aerosmith without Perry or Whitford was unthinkable. The song Lightning Strikes itself, co-written by Steven Tyler, replacement guitarist Jimmy Crespo, and collaborator Richie Supa, became a desperate Hail Mary. It's the only single from that cursed lineup to reach any chart success, peaking at number 21 on Billboard's rock chart. Yet its jagged, melodic power hinted at a band caught between their storied past and a bleak present. And tragically, it almost became their finale. By the late 1970s, the rock's era magic was fading. Tyler's heroin habit worsened, tours derailed, and acrimony grew. In July 1979, after a disastrous show in Cleveland, Joe Perry simply left the band. He later recalled feeling like Aerosmith had become dysfunctional, and indeed, without its Keith Richards-like riffmaster, the outfit could hardly function, as guitarist Rick Dufay would later reflect. Perry's exit forced Aerosmith to scramble. Veteran guitarist Jimmy Crespo, from the band Flame, was brought in as the new lead six-stringer. But even that patch job couldn't fix the chemistry. By 1981, after Lightning Strikes had been tracked, Whitford too quietly quit mid-recording. In his place came Rick Dufay, another journeyman recommended by producer Jack Douglas. Tom Hamilton, bassist, later described the scene with a bittersweet tone. To the kids who grew up on Toys in the Attic, seeing Aerosmith on stage without Perry or Whitford was a pretty big deal. The band soldiered on with Crespo and Dufay, filling the twin guitar slots, backed by new keyboardist Bob Mayo. In the studio, tension mounted. Dufay recalls those sessions as a nightmare. Tyler was so strung out that he was way too far gone to do anything. He was nodding off when he was trying to write lyrics. In blunter terms, the book behind the music documents that Dufay literally had to nurse Tyler back to health over months. With their frontman barely functional and both original guitarists gone, Aerosmith's survival was in doubt. The band had already been declared and also ran by many. They soldiered through a protracted recording process and lurched into the new decade diminished and fractured. In August 1982, Columbia finally released Rock in a Hard Place, Aerosmith's 7th album. It arrived under grim circumstances. It was their first album of the 80s, and the only one without Joe Perry. By then, the band had already dropped well over $1 million on recording. Some reports say $1.5 million, and returned briefly to producer Jack Douglas, hoping to work miracles. But the result was patchy. Critics immediately noted how the band clung to their old blues boogie sound, even as early 80s rock shifted around them. J.D. Considine wrote in Rolling Stone that Aerosmith's fast power chords had made their bluesy boogie almost obsolete. The Philadelphia Inquirer was even harsher. Reviewer Ken Tucker panned the album 1 out of 5 stars, lamenting that it's sad when once vital hard rock bands outlast their usefulness. In short, Rock in a Hard Place sold modestly, eventually certified gold, and stalled at number 32 on Billboard, a sharp drop from their platinum years. As one retrospective author noted, it wasn't a record that suggested the epic amount of time spent on it had been a wise investment. Behind the scenes, the sessions for Rock in a Hard Place were equally desperate. With Whitford quitting before the album was finished, Douglas and the remaining members pressed on. Dufay recalls pushing Tyler out of the studio for weeks to get clean. The rest of the band pretty much nursed him back to health in Florida. In the interim, Hamilton added keyboards and harmonies, even introducing ex-Frampton player Bob Mayo to flesh out the sound. Still, the album reeked of rush and exhaustion. It's telling that Dufay later quipped how grim the situation was. The new lineup was slated to fail before it had even got off the ground. After 2 tumultuous years in the studio, what came out was a record that only dabbled in Aerosmith's classic mojo, with only a few bright spots among the rubble. Into this bleak backdrop strode Lightning Strikes, the lead single meant to salvage the ship. From its opening drum beat and synthesizer wail, the song harkened back to the hard rock Aerosmith had done best, now propelled by Crespo's agile leads and a driving backbeat. Unusually, Lightning Strikes still featured Whitford on rhythm guitar despite his impending exit. It was co-written by Tyler, Crespo, and family friend Richie Supa, the man who had even recommended Crespo to the band. In fact, bassist Tom Hamilton later recalled that Supa wrote Lightning Strikes and helped bring Crespo in during auditions. As a single, it gave Aerosmith something to rally around, even an MTV video. The clip, one of the band's first made-for-MTV productions, showed Tyler and the new crew on a gritty city street, brandishing bats and chains as fake lightning flashed between cuts. It was an image meant to scream tough and street, but for many, it felt oddly desperate. As one viewer remembered, watching that Lightning Strikes video was jarring. They looked a bit old to be gang members out on the street, she recalled decades later. Musically, Lightning Strikes itself was respectable, certainly the hardest rocking, most radio-ready moment on the album. It was the only track from this lineup to chart, hitting number 21 on Billboard's mainstream rock chart. Fans who heard it on the radio might have thought, maybe Aerosmith still had fight left. Guitarist Rick Dufay later admitted that there would be the odd song that worked like lightning strikes, even as the rest of the album felt thrown together. In fact, Richie Supa's contribution and the energy Crespo brought meant that Lightning Strikes was one of the few pieces that hinted at the classic Aerosmith swagger. But it was more a lone bolt than a storm. By its very release, the band was already dissipating. Brad Whitford had walked away. Tyler was spiraling. So Lightning Strikes felt less like the start of a new era, and more like a final plea. When Rock in a Hard Place and Lightning Strikes hit the streets, reaction was muted or scathing. Critics seized on the irony and the flaws. Besides the Rolling Stone and Inquirer blasts, most reviews agreed the album lacked its old chemistry. AllMusic later noted that without Perry and Whitford, Aerosmith didn't possess the magical chemistry of their 70s classics. Martin Popoff called the record a bit patchy, singling out Jailbait, Lightning Strikes, and Joni's Butterfly as rare highlights. Even some fans turned on them. In the British magazine Sounds, the verdict had been 4 stars, but that was about it. By contrast, fan comment sections and retrospectives show the pain. One old-timer analogized the album to that shameful time when the parents split up and the kids went into custody. A crushing image of broken family. Some listeners outright hated it. One unimpressed concertgoer from the Rock in a Hard Place tour bluntly wrote, "I saw Aerosmith on the Rock in a Hard Place tour. They sucked." On the flip side, a few diehards appreciated Lightning Strikes specifically. Even in critical context, the song was seen as well-produced, kicking off the album on a familiar note. But on the whole, the band's situation swallowed its music. By late 1982, Aerosmith was as good as dead. Columbia quietly let them go, the lineup splintered, and all 5 members eventually drifted apart. with Perry and Tyler forming the short-lived The Joe Perry Project and solo Steven Tyler Ventures. The Rock in a Hard Place tour petered out early, plagued by empty seats and onstage collapses. Tyler became too ill on multiple occasions to finish sets. The band's agents, managers, and the music press were writing their obituary. It seemed lightning strikes had indeed rattled them to the brink, nearly fracturing the band beyond repair. Yet as grim as that period was, it proved to be the crucible for something new. Ironically, the disaster of 1982 became part of Aerosmith lore, a cautionary legend of decadence and redemption. By 1984, the band was hungry for revival. Tyler finally got clean. He said he realized he was dying and entered detox in '83. Gradually, the original members reconciled. In November 1985, they quietly reunited for one last gamble. The Done with Mirrors album, released November 4, 1985, marked the return of Joe Perry and Brad Whitford, both finally back with the band after 6 and 4 years apart, respectively. It even came with a cheeky idea. The vinyl packaging had all text printed backward. You needed a mirror to read the liner notes, a tongue-in-cheek nod to their reversal of fortunes. Done with Mirrors didn't immediately set the charts on fire, but insiders see it as a turning point. While Permanent Vacation, 1987, is often cited as the true comeback, Done with Mirrors plays a pivotal role in the Aerosmith story. Perry and Whitford were back. Tyler was sober. The band's chemistry slowly reignited. Throughout the late 1980s, the survivors rode their second win to superstardom. In 1987, Permanent Vacation and the 1989 classic Pump delivered hit ballads and rockers that relit Aerosmith's flame. To millions, it was like lightning strikes, and Rock in a Hard Place had never happened. But the band never forgot. Tyler later said that rock bottom can become a solid foundation on which to build a new life. And indeed, the hard lessons of 1982 were etched into their music and mythos. The near collapse taught them humility and resilience, and it added a dramatic arch to their legacy. In the end, Lightning Strikes stands as a symbol of Aerosmith on the brink, a flash of brilliance from a band almost undone. It nearly did end their story, but instead it forged one more chapter. The scars of that era made their comeback all the more triumphant, and fans today remember the Rock in a Hard Place saga as proof that even the roughest riff can be the prelude to a comeback anthem. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe with notifications on to never miss a video.